Alright, so we're back. I don't remember what we were doing or what was going on, but there you go. In-game's research division was in a word amazing. It took up multiple levels and the individual labs were fantastic. I had some free time, so I stopped by to see if there were any updates on the relic case. I wasn't expecting the reception I got. The research division was made up in a large part of non-espers of low infantry. The few ranked members were espers that weren't suitable for assignments or fieldwork beyond information gathering. It meant that many of them didn't leave the lab often outside of going home to sleep, and sometimes not even for that. They were an eccentric bunch that were ecstatic to meet the F-class queen in history, a title I'd come to accept since it was obvious I wouldn't be rid of it soon. But despite the eccentricities and intense enthusiasm for shaking my hand, I had to admit I felt almost at home. I could get pretty enthusiastic about the right subjects too. They were scientists and it showed in everything about them. Fortunately, the fact that they were scientists meant that there was a simple way to distract them if they got too overwhelming. Ask them about something they found more interesting than me. In this case, the relics. We should find cataloging them by the end of the day. We've never had a collection of relics this large to deal with it all at once. I'm relieved they found the rest of the ones from the estuary before they found their way into anyone else's hands. We can't say for sure they got them all, but one hopes. One does. Now, if they could only find this mysterious him that has his eyes everywhere and shut this operation down for good. Yeah, that would be ideal. The researcher who had been showing me around was observing me over the top of the display in his hand. You don't think you'll have another psychometric experience while you're here, do you? I can't recall them up on command, unfortunately. Fair enough. Even experienced psychometricists have trouble with that, and you're still new at it. Do you remember any more details from the one you had before? Just bits and pieces. Words here and there, nothing that makes sense. I just kept hearing the word duplicate and the other stray words, but there's no context, so I can't really say what it means. It's frustrating. Maybe, but if it wasn't for you, we might not have even known this catch of relics is bound of New Albion. We wouldn't have had them in our possession now either. No one has every answer. We only contribute what we can. I suppose that's true. You know, some say relics are more like magic than science. I've heard that before, yes. The relics aren't beyond our understanding, though. It's just going to take time to figure them out. This is one of the things we worry about if we don't right now. Hopefully the situation isn't quite as dire yet. Hopefully not. I imagine they'll find more relics once they check other probable points of entry in Surin. Perhaps even more in history. The fact we have a better idea where to search for them isn't something to dismiss, and that is thanks to you. Looking forward to getting more of them in the lab to study? Of course. Though the sudden surge in them is concerning and puzzling. Aryan relics are fascinating. Until now, we only had rarely seen pairs with the same configuration. It's part of why they are so difficult to decode. With each one, we had no idea how to activate it or what it might do. Some have been in our custody for years and we still don't know, but this time around we have. He trailed off a puzzled frown, crossing his face. Duplicates, relics with the same configuration, are very similar ones that were uncovered. Is that unusual? Yeah, it wouldn't be if someone was manufacturing them, but there's no way someone is making these, right? What makes you so sure of that? Someone manufactured them in the past. Yeah, but people who understood this technology, you said yourself that we don't understand it. The metals used to make them don't even seem so naturally occur on this planet. No one has found it in the natural environment, only in the ruins. And even then, we still have no way to process it. That's just because we don't know of a verified source of the ore doesn't mean there isn't one. If someone found a source of Emitrium trying to make relics capable of melting everyone in the vicinity, wouldn't that be their top priority? The ore itself would be priceless. Maybe their goal involves something greater than simple monetary gain. I can't believe someone else has replicated this technology. I trailed off, realization hitting me like lightning. I gripped my forehead tightly as a part of my psychometric experience came back to me all at once, like remembering an elusive dream. I only just realized I'd forgotten. Of course. Replicate. They weren't saying duplicate, they were saying replicate. Replicates of relics? Yes, one of the people involved in the argument said something about it. What did he say about them? I don't know, it's so vague. I just remember snippets. So you're suggesting someone is creating replicates of other relics? Replicating has very specific connotations though. I don't know, I don't think I could say that with certainty. How would they replicate Aryan technology? Through other Aryan technology, perhaps. Basically a relic that replicates other relics. It's possible, though just a theory, of course, based on fractured information from your vision, and I'm certain there are numerous other ways to interpret it. Regardless, this is something you should notify your superiors of. You should update your report from Estrie. I could be remembering wrong. None of the incidents to date have been the same, have they? If someone was replicating existing relics and distributing them, surely some incidents would have been similar because the relics involved would be similar. Maybe they have been and we didn't know what to look for. Magnus. If there's one person I hadn't been expecting to encounter down here, it was him. I haven't even seen him outside of a few short meetings. I developed this weird impression that he had never left his office, though that couldn't be true, of course. Sorry to interrupt. When I saw you come to the lab, it looked interesting, so I decided to join you. Was he sitting around watching me? And again, there was a chance he sat around watching everyone in the building, I suppose. He had the ability. With his arrival, the rest of the researchers seemed somewhat on edge. Not overtly, but they were sneaking glances his way as he came inside to join me and Olsen. Olsen, at least, didn't seem to be bothered by it, though. That's an interesting hypothesis you're putting forth. You think we missed a pattern of similar incidents somehow? Relic capabilities are not well understood. It's possible the way that they're activated and used changes behavior. This could alter our perception of what a given relic can do, and we might miss similarities that would otherwise stand out. For instance, a relic weaponized by one person might be used differently by someone else. A knife in the hands of a murderer or a surgeon differ only in intent. Olsen frowned and set his display down as he pulled the stool over to input device. Surgeons. Did you think of something? If what you're saying is true, we should be able to pull up. Allow me. Thank you. That was a case in CERN a few months ago involving a clinic. The screen shifted the new report flickering across it. This one? Yes, this is it. We confiscated the relic from an illicit medical clinic in one of the CERN's lower wards. I don't remember the details of the case, but from what I'm reading, the relic was being used by the doctor to heal all manner of illnesses. And to make illegal genetic modifications. How troubling. And genetic mods weren't harmful. In fact, none of the patients were harmed long term. Even so, we took the doctor into custody for operating without a license. I see. One question is that it took them almost 4 years to figure out how to use the relic safely on humans. We're fortunate that they were willing and able to demonstrate how to use it. Even so, the exact mechanisms by which it worked is a mystery. It seems to use area radiation to infiltrate the reprogram the immune system. And I don't understand the relevance here. What do you think would happen if someone used such device without configuring it for humans? Isn't it impossible to say? Is it? He spun around on the stool to look at us, tapping his fingers on the countertop. What about the incident here in Brazil? A relic that appeared to be affecting humans' bodies in some manner, but the infection stopped as soon as the radiation stopped. Dr. Saskai observed most of the patients affected by it had elevated immune responses, which he assumed was a response to the relic infecting them with something. What if the immune system was being directly stimulated by the relic rather than reacting to something? Perhaps you're correct. I found this. He flicked a hand at the monitor and two images pulled up side by side. They're similar, aren't they? Similar. They look identical. Those are the relics from those two events? They are. So the device from the Brazil incident was a medical device? It didn't seem like it at the time, not based on what I saw it doing to those people. But I suppose if it wasn't modified for human use, we had no idea what Aryans were like as species, undoubtedly very, very different from us. Still, to think it was a medical device. I was also thinking of the Anston incident. That thing from 5 years ago? In that incident, a relic was uncovered and studied in a small isolated dome in direct violation of several international treaties. When it activated, it destroyed the entire dome. Or to say more correctly, it appeared to have completely vaporized the dome. Occupants and all. There's nothing left. Magnus made a soft sound in his throat as the entry about that incident flashed onto the screen. You're thinking the Astrid incident is similar, aren't you? It did involve breaking down the matter into barely recognizable substances, almost like a less powerful or less complete version of the previous incident. Much smaller scale as well. For all we know, it was something as simple as utilizing a different setting. Unfortunately, the Anston relic was never recovered, so we can't compare the two. I'll have a team go through the known incidents with a fresh perspective and look for patterns we may have missed. How would someone have replicated the Anston relic if it was never recovered? Surely they'd need to have the original, or semantics of the original if we'd assume. I think it'd be unwise for us to make assumptions here, Nori. There are too many unknowns, and all we've uncovered thus far was the source of all this is in Delphine. Excuse me one moment. It looks like one of my colleagues needs something from me. I moved away from Magnus and back towards a glass containing unit into the center of the room, looking at the large relic house inside it. We're not only theorizing someone might be replicating relics, but of a word I heard in my vision, and because we may have identified relics with the same function. That's a pretty loose connection. And all we have right now is a loose connection. Any theory is valid at this point. How could someone make a discovery of the significance over there and manage to stay hidden? Even I can't see everything that happens there, especially not if they're trying to conceal it. I told you before, how many relics exist there? Where they are all of this information I have not been able to uncover. I'm not all powerful. The worrying part is that someone with the ability to replicate Aryan technology could do so much more than what they've done so far. Which means that if it is what we're dealing with, we haven't deciphered their end of the goal yet. And that's almost definitely means this will get worse before it gets better. This isn't comforting. No, it isn't. Not when we have no effective way to counter the power of these relics. They're impervious to our attempts to destroy them, and we don't even know if it can be done safely anyway. It would be nice if someone in our ranks had the ability to manipulate this sort of technology, but our only king rank isn't able to. It's a pity queen ranks don't seem to be able to mimic a king's ability. Though you had some sort of experience with the last relic you touched, that vision of circuit girl? Look. And symbols, and it shorted out right after that. I didn't short it out, though I did nothing but pick it up. Perhaps, but it's still interesting. It'd be fascinating if you, as an F-class queen, could do something even I cannot. He circled and contained it unit, moving to the other side to the lab to speak to Olsen and his few fellow researchers. I sighed, peering in the relic in front of me. There's no way. Even if I was somehow mimicking king rank abilities, the only king we had couldn't interact or decipher the relic, so why would I be able to? I shut my eyes, replaying the moment in the streets of Brazil. It wasn't like I'd done anything special. I only picked up the relic and looked at it. There was no actual evidence I had done anything of what happened. Though if I could do something like that, would it help the situation? It wasn't like relics could tell me where they are from who they're from. Realistically, the most valuable part of being able to decode them would be knowing how to activate and deactivate them. But knowing the intended purpose and how they were supposed to function, if someone learned to decode the relics, doesn't that mean they potentially have a method for translating the Aryan language? Now that was a topic of interest to me. Think of how many doors that would open up understanding the history of this world. It would be a veritable Pandora's box. When it came to the technology itself, though, someone was already tinkering with these things and people were getting hurt. Humans never know when to leave things alone, do they? Living on a planet with such a complex history really was a problem sometimes. Fascinating, but problematic. I looked up to catch Magnus watching me and smiled, feeling a little bit awkward now that I was alone and everyone else was busy. Maybe I should head up. I need to update my reports with the information I remember, and there was a flicker of light on the darkened relic in front of me. I glanced up at it with surprise, eyes going wide. The pinprick of the cyan light at the top of the relic began to spread down the circuitry. My thoughts slowed, trailed to a stop, and everything shifted in a split second. It felt like I was watching myself from far away. Oh no. The words were drawn out in my mind, loitering at the edge of the consciousness too long for me to react to what was happening. There was a flash, the symbols flooded through the vision, strange and unintelligible. They blotted out the lab until they were all I could see. The hum of the relic filled my mind, a hum and then a high-pitched whine, like a scream. I knew it would explode before I heard Olsen return to my side, frantically saying my name, but I couldn't move. I was aware that what was going on around me, but I was stuck in this strange world of alien symbols, unable to tear my eyes away. With a great effort, I shouted for everyone to get out. The words came out, a sluggish whisper, as if my tongue had fastened itself to the roof of my mouth. The relic was going to discharge. In my mind's eye, I could see the same energy coiling inside it, preparing to release like a snake about to strike. For one terrifying moment, I thought we would die. Instinct took over. I pushed Olsen behind me and condensed my PSI into a barrier wrapped around the device in a thick layer. There was a sharp pain at the back of my skull when I realized another shield around the two of us, and a wash of bright light hit my eyes. Breaking the spell, I flinched away, covering my face as the relic exploded. There was a loud pop that left my ears ring, shattering glass. Pain in both my mind and arms as the shields cracked and shattered. It was over in seconds, and we were all alive. What followed was a jumble of faces shouting, smoke alarms, the lab was damaged, but in one piece. Nori, are you alright? I'm fine. I had a feeling my voice was too loud over the ringing in my ears. I could hear Magnus as well as Olsen help me away from the center of the room. Get the smoke cleared out of here, scan the area, and get full readings of the radiation. Check for any... I don't know what that word was. My eyes met his. Something strange passed over his face, almost like triumph. It was gone before I fully registered it. Nori, Sorry, I'm fine, I'm okay. I stumbled after him towards the door. What happened? I'm not sure. The relic activated and I got pulled into it again, and it felt different than what happened on the street. A little, I don't know. At any rate, I knew it would explode. I glanced at my arm. I thought it was just glass that had injured it, but it was red, blistered, and peppered with cuts. Looks like my shields still need work. On the bright side, no one got melted. Now. There's no time for that. Later. Excuse me. Now, there's time for that later. We need to get you to the infirmary to have you treated. I'll take her there myself. Magnus gave me another look before he turned away again, taking charge in a way that left me a little surprised. I want a full report on the test being done on the relic and why it activated. This could be a very serious incident. We don't want to repeat. Olsen shuffled me away and we left the chaos of the lab behind to the chaos of the medical ward instead. You are fortunate the burn isn't worse than it is. A mid-particle thickness burn will take hours to heal even with my intervention and your bio-enhancements. You also received the 17 lacerations from the exploded glass along the left. Antibrachium glass shards had to be removed from the 6 of them. You required biosutures in 4 of them. I am aware of that. It's my arm that was injured, you know. I was present for the treatments. You are fortunate you hastily constructed shield blocked as much as you did. Yes, given what we know of the relics, I'm lucky to be alive. Quite. You're fortunate that the relic self-destructed rather than discharged, and that you were capable at least at moderately strengthened shield. I'll have to thank Ari for that training. The look he leveled at me was nothing short of a glare before he returned to typing on his display. All the relics should be locked down before something terrible happens with them. No one here is capable of dealing with them. Did they figure out why this one activated in the first place? Did you not do it? No, I didn't start experiencing whatever that was until after it already activated. I don't know that. I said get out of the way. It would appear your guard has learned you were injured. I'm surprised it took him this long to come down and start shouting at people. The door slid open and Caleb was standing there looking predictably angry. If you intend to do nothing but shout at others, I will personally escort you out of my medical ward, Caleb. I'm not shouting. You kinda are, though. What did you think you were doing down there, Adonis? Here we go. Am I not allowed to go down to the research lab? You sure as hell aren't now. Whether that meant they'd ban me or he was dramatic, I couldn't say. I didn't do anything. You can ask everyone there. Clearly, you did something, Nori. Another one of those things blew up while you just happened to be nearby? And how the hell do you just stand there when one of those things is about to go off? What were you thinking? Are you trying to get killed? It wasn't as if I was being reckless. Everything happened so fast. I saw the recording. You stood there while people tried to pull you away. Yes, I know. I was there. He blew a long stream of air from his lips, looking at all the world as if he had been throttled me. As if he had liked to throttle me, excuse me. And I almost laughed. Typical Caleb. Are you finished telling off my patient? It's alright, Dr. Sasuke. I know he's only worried about me. Oh, you've even realized his anger is a dysfunctional attempt to avoid addressing his anxiety? I don't know that I came to that exact conclusion. I've told him many times that if he continues to refuse to deal with his anxiety directly, it'll accumulate in more outbursts. Anger makes him feel more in control of situations over which he cannot exert real control. Unprocessed anger can lead to a myriad of other medical issues. He truly is the most problematic patient. I'm not your patient. I'm not here to get a diagnosis from you. No, though you clearly need one. But if you're here to express overly loud concern for your queen, she'll recover. Her injuries are not severe, though I intend to keep her here for a little while for observation. What do you think you'll be observing? Any residual... Girl, look. Move on by. Effects from what happened with the relic, or of course, just in case. Others were merely exposed to area radiation. She, however, had another odd experience and is still showing heightened activity in her phoric system. I hate to break it to you, but they're already getting ready to call a meeting of the guard. Then it will have to go on without the queen-ranked member there, as she will not be leaving the infirmary for several hours. Good luck with that. When have I ever needed something like luck to enforce my rules on my patients? While everyone crowded in my infirmary room, I was reminded of my first days in the organization. At the time, I had been so scared and lost. It was strange that it felt more normal this time around. Well, here we are again. I hate to barge in like this, but I wanted to sit down and talk about what happened. I'm glad because I had some things I wanted to talk about too. Before the more I thought about what happened, the more it seemed a little strange. I'd love to know how you did it. This is the second time you got one to deactivate just from being close to it. I wish I could tell you. Last time, I didn't do anything in particular. Caleb was leaning near the door, and I gave him a pointed look when I said that. He lifted an eyebrow in response. Typical. Then, what exactly happened? We have yet to hear your perspective on the situation. When it started to light up, I just looked into it and had a similar experience to the last time. There were lights, symbols, and then it exploded. I don't know that I actively caused it to self-destruct at the last minute. I could tell it was about to discharge, and it was over. Perhaps it's reacting to your PSI by self-destructing. Some Aryan techs react to PSI. Either way, it's fascinating. I can't even begin to interpret what I see when I look into the relics. There's nothing recognizable. Not that I'm truly seeing anything. It's just the brain trying to interpret the simulation by accessing the visual and auditory cortex, according to Dr. Saskai anyway. But what I usually get when I look into them is a scream inside my head and an influx of aliens. Not that's painful to try to go too deep inside them. Usually, but not always. On rare occasions, my attempts to interface with them have been semi-successful. On a very shallow level, given time, I can occasionally elicit a response of some kind, and they still don't know what triggered it earlier today. The scans have found nothing, but they rarely do. We're fortunate you were nearby when it activated. We're fortunate it self-destructed before it discharged. No, it wasn't that dire. The relic they had in the containment unit is one we acquired a few months ago. Its abilities seem to be harmless. It's one of the few we are reasonably sure how to work. Then why would it activate like that? Who knows? You son of a... He was across the room, gripping Magnus by the front of his shirt in seconds. Did you do it? What are you implying, Caleb? I asked you if you activated the damn thing on purpose. I would have expected Ari to stop Caleb, or for any of them to stop him. None of them did. Caleb, I asked you a question, Magnus. I was the one who stood and set a hand on Caleb's arm. Dr. Saskai will come throw you out of the room if you keep shouting. Nori is right. I also believe we should hear Magnus's answer. As Nori successfully deactivated the relic, does it matter how I activated? Yes, it does. Don't bother. Would there be a reason to avoid answering if you didn't do it? Well, she already got you figured out, Magnus. She hasn't even been here that long. You said it wasn't a dangerous one. Is there a way to know that for sure? I had someone standing by to get you out the lab if it was necessary. So you really planned everything and I walked right into it. I understand your frustration, but the situation we're in is girl, risk taken from us all. We're in a particularly precarious position, and understanding how your PSI reacts to relics is important. Whether you're able to deactivate them, or if they simply react to your PSI by self-destructing. We need to understand that ability. We should not be experimenting with actual people, Magnus. What you did was dangerous. Everyone just stop, please. Nothing will be solved by arguing. Are you saying you're fine with this bastard? No, I'm not saying that, and if he wants to risk someone's safety going forward, it should be his own, not mine or anyone else's. I'm just saying that if someone is mass-producing relics, it's a serious problem. If I can somehow cause a reaction in them, being able to cause a reaction isn't the same as being able to control them, Nori, and there's no safe way for you to hone this skill to get to that point. Even so, she's disrupted and destroyed 2 of them. At what cost? Look at her. She hasn't come out of unscathed either time. Perhaps not, but even so, we may end up needing that power. I'll do what I have to do, but if I can get some sort of reaction from them that shuts them down, you should be able to do it as well, Magnus. After all, you can activate them. It would be nice if you weren't putting everything on my shoulders, right? The next time you want to experiment, I expect you to tell me first. I'll do my best to remember that. Do better than your best. The meeting was entirely derailed after that, but the important part of what Magnus wanted to discuss was over. Later I learned that Magnus had activated the lab scanners long before the relic came online. They recorded everything down to my PSI and the relic's precise energy output. Another indication just how planned the incident was. It was exhausting to think about, and I just wanted to get to my room to rest. So I was relieved when you finally released me. I wasn't surprised when one of the others, specifically Caleb, walked me back. How's the arm? I already told you I'll live. I can see that you'll live. This isn't the point. You would probably disagree. Oh, he's you now? He suggested I call him that, yes. Look, I know the point is that I shouldn't have been hurt in the first place, but there's nothing going to change that from being angry about it. Nothing will change if you treat Magnus like he can get away with this. He already did get away with it, unless you think someone's sitting in the shadows ready to mete out consequences. Unlikely. That's my point. At least I was able to use Ari's lessons to put up a decent shield. You should have got out as soon as you realized what was happening, so we're just gonna do this again. Caleb, I was barely aware of my surroundings at that point. People were literally shouting your name. You try having your consciousness sucked into a piece of that alien technology and see how responsive you are to people calling your name, Caleb. And why am I suddenly being yelled at over this? I wasn't the one who activated the thing. Because you have to learn to respond faster when things like this happen. You can't just stand there. This is why I said you weren't ready. Ready for what? To go down to the lab to exist? I wasn't on an assignment. Do I have to have training just to walk now? I'll never be ready for this kind of thing. I can only take each situation as it comes to me and make what seems like the best choice as it happens. You have no idea how important you are to this place. Really? To this place? He stood there a moment, his jaw working. Just get to your place and get some rest. He turned on his heel and started away. Great. And he's leaving just like that. This turned out to be a lousy day. So I made up for it by changing into the training attire and going to hit something, because between Magnus and Caleb, I really needed to hit something. It was also the opposite of what Caleb told me to do, so that was a bonus. Stupid jerk. I knew he was worried. I knew I wasn't just a queen rank to him. I knew it, but it didn't change how angry I was. The council was throwing me headlong into assignments, whether I was ready or not. Magnus was tricking me into stupid situations to test my skill. And then I had to deal with Caleb being pissed off about it. I was so tired of it, all of it. Tired of them all. I slammed my fist into a punching bag and, ignoring the pain that shot up my arm, and then I caught it as it swayed under the force of the strike. What are you doing here, Caleb? Does you know you're defying his orders to rest? Are you going to pick another fight with me? No, that isn't why I'm here. Good. I continued to ignore him and took up my stance again, punching the bag as hard as I could. You would be furious with me, but I couldn't help it. I had some irritation to get out. The regeneration was close to complete anyways. Caleb's soft footsteps came to me, padding quietly over the mat. Before I could throw another punch, he caught my hand from behind, tucking my body against his as he held me in place. You should be resting and letting the arm heal. I struggled to get away, but he held me firmly. How did you even find me? I may be a rook, and my clairvoyance may suck, but it's not like it's non-existent. You weren't in your flat, so I went looking. I don't need you checking in on me, and let go of me. I jerked my elbow back, but he must have sensed it coming. He stepped away, and I made contact with air. I wasn't checking on you. I was going to apologize. I looked over my shoulder at him, wiping my forehead with the back of my hand for yelling at you. I'm tired of you snapping at me because you feel guilty about me being here. I don't care if that's how you deal with things. It's not just guilt. Then what is it? What do you think it is? I don't know. I worry because you can't take care of yourself the way the rest of us can. I'm the strongest one here, in theory. Should I prove to you that it's in practice as well? You think you can? Turn away from them. Prove it to him. Prove it to him. I spun around, throwing a punch I threw. I had no chance of landing. Caleb blocked effortlessly. And the next, he had an infuriating look on his face, as if he had been planning an impromptu sparring match all along. He backed away from me towards the center of the room, blocking every single blow, making me angry and angry each time, and he didn't bother to fight back, which made it worse. Even if I threw him somehow, he'd be on his feet again right away, but he had taught me how to throw someone, so I launched myself at him, one of my legs wrapping around his. He saw it coming and let himself fall. I didn't know if I was angry he was here or angry he was letting me win. He hit the mat, rolling back and preparing to get right back to his feet. I followed him down and pinned him in place, knowing full well he could toss me off if I didn't enhance my strength more. But to be honest, I just wanted to prove a point, not exhaust myself for no reason. When I held him in place, he lay there looking up at me, amused and curious. Finished? Depends if I got my point across. What point is that, Nori? I don't need you to protect me, and have a tantrum every time you feel like you didn't do it well enough. The facade cracked and his expression faltered. I don't need you treating me like I'm inferior. Do you understand that's how you make me feel? That I'm burdened in by the stupid guilt of not being good enough, even though I barely got here? And on top of that, I have to deal with your stupid temper and attitude because you always act like a jerk when you're worried. I didn't intend for you to feel guilty. Just like I don't mean to worry you. Caleb reached up, startling me when he moved the lock of my hair out my face, and behind my ear my mouth suddenly went dry. I don't know how to deal with you. What's that mean? You aren't like the rest of us. You're not some child soldier raised in this place. You're inexperienced and you hate that you have to be here. You miss your life, but you're determined to make this work. It's frustrating. He looked at me seriously, his hand sliding down my cheek. You frustrate me. And you scare me. If the rest of us can get hurt with all of our years of training, what do you think can happen to you? I've seen it happen, Nori. I don't want to see it again. Nothing will happen to me. You can't promise that. And then neither can you, no matter how much you try to protect me. I can try. I don't want to. His jaw tightened and I felt his hand at the back of my head, pulling me down to him. I had a split second to realize what was happening before our lips met. A gasp escaped, mingling with his breath. In an instant, all thoughts fled. It wasn't that I was surprised. I mean, I was in that moment. He kept one arm around my waist and rolled me over, pinning me to the mat with his body. I let out a soft, muffled gasp. The kiss itself didn't surprise me that much. It wasn't as if I didn't realize that was growing tension. I was just surprised he acted on it, and surprised at myself for not pushing away and not telling him it was a bad idea, because I was certain it was a bad idea to kiss him, at least like this. when we were both frustrated and anxious and were tangled on the floor of a training room. But that still didn't stop me. Instead, I let the weight of his body rest against mine and the stiffness ease out of me. I shut my eyes against everything and, in that darkness, just gave myself over to the feeling of him running his fingers through my hair and down my side. His teeth caught my lower lip, eliciting a sharp gasp. He rolled his hips against mine, a gesture I thought was unconscious from the way the sensation caused us both to gasp. I think that was when we both realized where we were and what we were doing. Caleb jerked back, staring down at me with an expression I couldn't begin to decipher. I'm sorry. That was I shouldn't have done that. He sat up abruptly and I followed suit. I must be out of my mind. Caleb, I'm sorry, I shouldn't just go. Coming here was a mistake. Caleb, wait. I followed him as he got to his feet, trying to catch his hand. He pulled out of reach, striding to the door as if in a big rush to get away from me. Good night, Nori. And he was gone. Damn it. Could this day get any weirder and any more frustrating? My fingertips wandered to my lips and I let out a strangled sigh. I would never be able to sleep now. Never. And that's the end of that. And y'all, we will be back later. Thanks for listening.